We made it. We made it to the first episode of Bachelor in Paradise. Check out my new backdrop and my little props. Welcome back. We are on the first episode of Bachelor in Paradise. But I want to do something a little bit different in this video. I'm going to summarize the 5 tips, what to do and what not to do in your relationships. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a single episode. Welcome to Reality TV Therapy with me, Dr. Diane. Well, it's official. The beach is open, and we have Wells with us too. Now, some exciting new margarita glasses, if you noticed. What's not to love? For starters, there are some behaviors not to love, and I want to go into my top 5 don'ts, and then my top 5 do's. Yes. Okay. Number 1, don't come with an old persona.
Paradise!
And I'm talking to you, Jacob. Because Jacob was coming off his last season with Gabby and Rachel, and nobody even knows him. And then he shows up at Paradise with this Tarzan theme going on. And quite honestly, it doesn't make a big splash. It's really awkward. We've seen the same move when Queen Victoria came. It didn't work for Queen Victoria, and I don't think it's working for Jacob. Why? Because it's too cliche. And honestly, who's going to take Jacob seriously? Even he's trying to convince himself, yes, I'm here for love, right? But I'm like an elephant. I don't forget. And Jacob did some, shall we say, sketchy things. One, he talked about women's bodies. He was awfully picky about that. Now he's talking about women's eyebrows. And I just don't know. I thought Jacob just came from the Men Tell All, and I thought there was a little bit more progress there, but I'm not so sure if we're going to see Jacob backslide. So that's a big no for me. 2, the big no, the biggest no of the night, don't get into a love triangle. Now, if it legitimately happens where you're weighing between 2 people, I get it. But we're talking about Romeo, Kira, and Jill. So, Romeo comes, Jesse's there, he's walking down the stairs, and he's like, hey, Phyllis and Romeo, how's it going? And he's like, well, I've been with Jill, and I know Kira from school. Turns out they both went to Harvard. And he's boasting, he's like living his best life. But something feels off to me here. So then, as a summary, he's talking to Jill, connecting with her. They're talking about what a lovely time they had and what happened there and how come they're not friends as much anymore. And Jill pretty explicitly says it was because of Kira. Now, of course, we know production is behind the scenes. They're loving all of this, right? And cue in, let's bring Kira in now. But then Kira comes down and says, oh, can I have this drink? And she takes the drink. And we all just cringe. If you really look at the film, there were 3 drinks there. And so did she really steal Jill's drink? I don't think so. But Jill, of course, is going with this narrative that Kira stole her drink. So what I'm not really loving, though, is how Romeo's actually handling all of this. It's like living his best life. His ego has gotten involved here. And I feel like this is a guy, smart guy, mathematician, again, went to Harvard, but something feels a little bit off. And I feel like the women are going to get hurt as a result of it. They already are because we see Jill crying. And then a second go round is when we see Kira interrupting Jill and Romeo again. But what I don't like is, again, how Romeo fails to react. This is a big no for me. That he doesn't stand up and say, excuse me, I'm sorry, Kira, we can talk. I'm busy talking with Jill now. Like, he doesn't really state that. And we know that this is what women want. He's acting a little bit like he's the Bachelor, and it's okay to sort of, can I steal you for a moment? But that's not really how this show works. And then the statement that really got me when he says, these are the crucibles of how true love is formed. Wait. I'm sorry. True love is formed through two women fighting for you. There's a romantic kind of quality here. And of course, his name is Romeo, so I'm going to go with that. But what I want to summarize is Romeo, where far out there your backbone? I just don't think this is going to work. I also think that we're going to have a big no with Kira, because Kira is not going to take no for an answer, even though he's like asking her for permission. Can I be with Jill? And she says, okay, I'll let you do that, but watch my words. That's not going to happen. In summary, I think Kira is going to pursue Romeo hard, and she is a woman who is not going to take no for an answer. Watch my words. Okay, tip number 3, don't be too rigid. And this is about Lace. So there's this interaction with Lace and Logan, and it's clear that Logan doesn't know Lace's name, and he calls her Luce, which could also be Luce or Luce. And I felt like Lace got really upset, and she kind of doubled down, and then she tried to pan it off like, call me Luce. But we see in the outtake that Logan feels like he's being scolded here. And at some point, they are all drinking, by the way. And I feel like this was a little bit of, you hurt me, how dare you not even know my name? And it could have been played off differently. So that is another no for me. Everybody's just getting to know each other. Lace does not have a common name. She was also from many seasons ago. In fact, she was from Ben Higgins' season. So people are like, they don't know her. Clearly none of the other women know her. So I just felt like this was a no for me. Okay, number 4. How not to let somebody else take your story for you. And this is where I'm talking to Jill, actually, because Jill is giving a difficult read. And I also thought Jill, as many of the women, might have been drinking a little bit too much. But she also could have stood up to Kira, as I thought Romeo could have too. When Kira comes in and like takes her drink, she could have said, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, that's my drink. Oh, by the way, there's free drinks over at the bar. You might get one. She could have handled it, I think, with a little bit sort of lighterness, and then, or lightness, I should say. And then when Kira comes back a second time, she could have said, oh, I'm so sorry. Romeo and I are in the middle of a conversation. You're happy to talk with him when I'm done. And so I think the message for everyone that I talk about in Bachelor in Paradise is that if you are shy in love and you don't speak up and you don't get the lead's attention, or you don't get somebody else's attention, this is a real learning opportunity for how to be more confident. And I wanted more confidence for Jill. So this was a no for me on Jill. All right, number 5 of what not to do when you're on Bachelor in Paradise and or in your relationships. Number 5, you must manage your narrative. Don't let somebody else manage the narrative. So whether you're Romeo or you're Casey or you're Kira, you have to think about, what am I projecting? Right? Because they can put you, we know that the producers are really good with putting people in a villain role or putting them in a love triangle. But here's the thing, Kira, I would ask you, is this the narrative that you want? Because she's appearing to be kind of the new Demi, right? I'm going to go to the boom boom room, and if I wasn't a doctor, I would be a porno star. But here she is. She's a brilliant woman. She's gone to Harvard. She works at UPenn as an attending physician in internal medicine. And I'm thinking, is this the narrative that you want? And I'm so worried, quite honestly, because I follow all of these shows and I feel like sometimes the producers will give you a narrative. Also, Casey, well, he's like, oh, I'm a good boy and my mother would be upset if she knew that this was happening. And then Kira's kind of working that. And I thought, Casey, is that the narrative that you want to? So that's another no for me, which is allowing other people to put you in a role unless you want to be there. Okay, now let's talk about the yeses.
Yes.
Okay, there were 5 things that I really want to highlight that were king and queen kind of moves. Okay, number 1, be bold. I'm going to give this award to Brandon for his boldness, because Brandon comes on the beach, super cute. He's got his little, was it a green shirt or green shorts on, and he does his little kind of wobble. He seems so confident, but he's so upbeat and positive. And then what does he do? He makes a beeline for Serene. This is a secure, confident move that he gives the message, Serene, I am here for you. I'm interested in you. Let's go talk. And even says, oh, sorry, ladies, I'm taking her. And the women are like, no, no, no. By all means, you do that. So I loved that he is helping Serene feel secure, which is what a nod to other men, that by doing so, by saying, I'm here for you, I'm interested in pursuing you, that is really a great move. Women love that. All the women are saying, I want to be pursued. If you listen to them talking, and he did exactly that. So nods to Brandon for that. He gets an award. Okay, number 2, don't be passive. I'm going to give this to Johnny, because and Sierra, both Johnny, right? He gets down. He's third person there, gets to the beach. He says hello to Michael and Andrew, and then says, I'm going to go talk to the women. Exactly what he should be doing. You are on Bachelor in Paradise to meet everyone, not to hold back, not to stand drinking drinks at the bar. I love that. Johnny took direction. And Michael says oh, Johnny's here to play. And I'm like, I don't know if he's here to play. I know he's here to meet women, and good for Johnny. Now, Michael A, too, I'm going to give him props, too. He was in there talking to the women. He was quite a gentleman. I think he's going to befriend many of the women. They all think he's a catch. And I do think that Michael's going to find love because he wants it. He's got a hole in his heart, and I think he's just a sweetheart. Okay, number 3. What we should be doing on Bachelor in Paradise is be a good friend. I never thought I would say this, but Shanae actually showed a moment of kindness where Lace is, again, probably had too much to drink. She's up in her room. She's disappointed that none of the men are coming forward. And Shanae comes and says, hey, let's go have a drink. And Lace is just shutting her down left and right, saying, oh no, the women have all been kind of somewhat, shushing me out. And she says, no, forget that. And it was Shanae who encouraged her to kind of come out of herself. And this was a good move for Shanae. So back to my idea that maybe you shouldn't play a particular villain kind of trope. And let's see if Shanae changes her stripes, shall we say. Okay, number 4. Don't be passive. Here is the thing I feel a little conflicted about. This isn't the best of examples, but Lace, okay? What I said, what she shouldn't do is she shouldn't be too hard on people for not knowing her name. But what I did like is that Lace didn't sit by passively and say, woe is me. Now, it's not great to lie and say it's your birthday if it isn't your birthday, but I do think that that was pretty strategic, and she got a little bit of attention going for herself. What I really don't care for is the people who we see crying, being upset, and they're not doing anything to change it up. And that's kind of what people do at Applebee's, right? They say it's their birthday so they can get a little something, something, a piece of pie. And that is what Lace did. So I like that she is taking action. Not the best of action, but she's taking action. Now, number 5, form authentic connections. That's the whole point of this show, right? And I love Bachelor in Paradise because we do have more authentic connections. We have plenty of couples who have had children coming from the show too. And at this point, what are the connections? Teddy and Andrew, that was lovely. That date, Andrew was so nervous. The conversation was not flowing. But I do think Andrew clearly is interested in Teddy. I'm not so sure how interested Teddy is in Andrew, though. Then we have Genevieve and Justin. I think they're both equally mutually attracted to one another. We'll see what happens there because we know that Victoria F is coming down the beach. Okay, what about Sierra and Michael? I think this is a lovely connection. I don't know if it's a love connection, but I like that Sierra said, I'm no rose stealer, and she seems authentically interested in Michael, and I'm here for it. So those are my 5 do's and don'ts. I always end my videos with what I call a reality check. What can we learn about this? So I know the men, this episode in particular, have the power. But what can we learn from the men? If I had to summarize one thing, I'd say be a Brandon, not a Romeo. Be directive. Let the woman that you're interested in know that you're interested in them, because unwavering interest is really sexy. But don't be a Romeo. Don't be passive. Don't get yourself in a love triangle and ask for permission. Be more direct, because that's what all people think is someone is sexy, is someone who knows who they want.